Okay, in this video we're looking at multiple representations, which basically means that we're going to look at a contextual description, which is your verbal description, an equation, a table, and a graph. And they're all going to state the same thing. So we're going to practice representing linear relationships in multiple ways in the following example and use the representation you're given to help you fill in the others. So we're going to first read the verbal description. It says a baby giraffe measures 6 feet tall when it is born, and it grows an average of 1/2 foot each month. So important things that need to be underlined is the fact that the giraffe, when it was born, was 6 feet tall, and that is growing 1/2 foot each month. Well, when the baby giraffe was born and he was automatically 6 feet tall, this is our starting point. So the starting point is making this the y-intercept. So this is where the baby giraffe starts from. And then we have 1/2 foot, and that is going to be our slope because it is constantly changing by 1/2 each month. So the giraffe is going to grow 1/2 foot each month, adding to his 6 feet that he was born with. So from there we're going to write our equation. And we already have everything labeled, that the 1/2 foot is our slope and that 6 feet is our y-intercept. So our equation is going to be y equals 1/2 x plus 6. I'm going to give you a second to get that written down on your notes. Okay. So now we're going to take that information and we're going to make a table with it. Well, we know that our slope was 1/2. And that we're starting at 6 feet tall. So the process is going to be, we're starting at 0 months, and he was so at 0 months, he's going to grow 1/2 foot plus 6. Well, 1/2 times 0, this is when he was born, is 0, plus 6 gives us 6 feet tall, because this is where he was born at 6 feet tall. So when the giraffe is a month old, which is going to be our x, we're going to have 1/2 times 1 plus 6. And that gives us 6.5 feet. I want you to note that months is your x and height is your y. Okay? So next we're going to have 1/2 times 2, because 2 is our x, which stands for months, plus 6, that gives us 7. And then 1/2 times 3, which for 3 months, plus 6 gives us 7.5. 1/2 times 4 for 4 months plus 6 gives us 8 feet. 1/2 times 5 for the 5th month plus 6 feet, which is what he was born at, gives us 8.5 feet tall. And then the 6th month the giraffe has been born, he's growing 1/2 foot per month times 6 plus the 6 feet that he already was. So at 6 months he's going to be 9 feet tall. So now we have to take this table and we have to create a graph. So our graph is going to be labeled giraffe's growth. We're going to label our x and our y. Our x is going to stand for months, and height is going to be our y. We're going to label our intervals, and our x's are going up by 1s up to 6, and then our height is also going up by 1s up to 10. So now I need to use my table and I need to graph my points. So my first point is going to be 0 and 6. So my first point is at 0 and 6. My second point is 1 and 6.5. My second point is 2 and 7. My third point is 3 and 7.5. My fourth point is 4 and 8. My next point is going to be 5 months and 8.5 feet. And that's my ordered pair. And then my last ordered pair is 6 and 9. So I'm going to draw a line, what looks like a straight line. That's my graph. So I have now taken a verbal description. I have written a equation. I've taken my equation and I have inputted my x, which was the months, into the x, and found my y, which was the total that the giraffe is going to grow. Now I'm going to answer some questions based off of the verbal description, the equation, the graph, and the table. It says, explain how you found the ordered pairs to create your graph. Well, I used the x and the y values in the table to create my graph. What is the slope of the graph? Well, and what does it represent? Well, the slope of the graph is 0.5, which is a half. It represents the rate the graph grows each month. 3, what is the y-intercept of the graph and what does it represent? The y-intercept is 0.6. It represents the starting height of the graph at birth. 4, what does the ordered pair 9 and 10.5 represent in the context of the situation? Now, this was not necessarily on the table, but if you read 9 as your x and 10.5 as your y, your x stood for months and your y stood for the height the giraffe was. You could know that after 9 months, the giraffe would be 10.5 feet tall. If the giraffe is 12 feet tall, how many months old would it be? Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert 12 into my y, and I'm going to find how many months old it is, and it's going to be 12 months old. And I can show you that real quick. So I have my equation y equals mx plus b, and it says the giraffe is 12 feet tall. So basically, this is going to be your y, so it would be 12 equals your slope, which is 0.5. And we don't know our x, plus b, which is 6. So that's how we're going to find out how old the giraffe is going to be. And we know that it's going to be 12 months old. So basically you're going to say 0.5 times x, which is going to give you 0.5x plus 6 equals 12. You're going to subtract 6 from both sides, and that gives you 6 equals 0.5x. You're going to divide both sides by 0.5, and you're going to get 12 equals x. Okay, so the other problems we're going to do in class, so make sure you bring this to class tomorrow. Have a good night.